Welcome everyone to our deep dive on inner peace. We're going to be, exploring this idea through, a lens of Buddhist and Zen philosophy. We've got all sorts of sources here, inspirational stories, teachings, and it seems like everyone's looking for inner peace these days, right? The world's so chaotic and demanding.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting how many of these sources point to silence as this key to finding inner peace. Not just no sound, you know what I mean? But like a real active tool.
Now that's fascinating. One story that really stuck with me was about this young monk, Tashi. He was struggling with, I think he called them impure thoughts. And even though he was practicing, he was having these thoughts.
Yeah, I think Tashi's story is it's something we all struggle with, right? Those thoughts. He goes to his teacher, this Master Lamo, and Master Lamo uses this amazing analogy. He's like, think of your mind as a pond, and your thoughts are like the mud. They're always there at the bottom. But our true nature, that's like the lotus flower. It can blossom from the mud.
So instead of fighting the mud, we nurture the lotus.
Exactly. Master Lamo teaches him about this loving kindness meditation, and it's not like ignoring those negative thoughts. It's about acknowledging them, but not getting caught up in them, and gently shifting our focus to cultivate love and compassion. So instead of trying to clear the mud, you nurture the lotus, right?
I see. So can you talk a little bit more about what does loving kindness meditation even look like?
Sure. Basically, you're directing feelings of love and compassion first to yourself and then outwards to others. So you might start by repeating phrases to yourself like, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful. And then you kind of extend those wishes outwards, maybe to loved ones first, then to neutral people, and eventually even to those you find difficult.
Wow. Makes you realize that transformation takes time, doesn't it? Just like the lotus gradually blooming.
It does, and you see that in a lot of these stories, this idea of gradual transformation. Like the story of Jake. He finds inner peace by applying these Buddhist principles in his daily life.
Jake's story was really interesting. He really embodies those concepts of right view, karma, and impermanence. I'd love to hear more about how those actually, how those play out in his life.
Right, yeah, it's not just theory. So for example, right view, Jake always chooses to see the positive. If there's a setback, instead of dwelling on the negative, he tries to find the lesson, the opportunity for growth. And then karma, the principle of cause and effect, that guides his actions. So he's really focused on making conscious choices, knowing that even small acts of kindness can have this ripple effect.
So he's not passively accepting things, but actively shaping his reality through his actions.
Exactly. And then impermanence, right? Understanding that everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
And this helps him let go of attachments. He can enjoy things without clinging to them, knowing that change is inevitable. He's able to find joy in the present moment instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
Yeah. Such a great example of how these principles can be integrated into our lives. And he uses meditation too, right? As part of his practice.
Oh, absolutely. Meditation really helps him stay grounded. It helps him actually confront those difficult thoughts and emotions instead of avoiding them. It's like creating that space where he can observe his inner world without getting swept away by it.
And that brings us back to that theme of silence, doesn't it? It keeps coming up, not just in these personal stories, but as a core practice in Buddhism and Zen.
Yeah, you're right. Silence, more than just no sound, It's a gateway to deeper awareness. We see that in Sarah's story, too. She's this high-powered executive, lives in the city, feels totally overwhelmed by, all the noise and demands of her life. But then she finds this book about Buddhist teachings, and it kind of sparks something in her.
It's like she finds this lifeline in the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up going on a meditation retreat, right? Experiencing actual silence for the first time. And it's uncomfortable at first, but then something changes.
Yes, exactly. It's common to feel that discomfort, When we first encounter real silence, our minds are so used to constant stimulation, right? But for Sarah, as that mental chatter quiets down, something really profound happens. She starts to observe her thoughts and emotions, but without getting caught up in them. And that's non-attachment, and it's so key to finding peace.
So it's like she creates some space, some distance from her thoughts, like stepping back from a whirlpool. You can still see it, but you're not being pulled in by it.
Exactly, you got it. That ability to observe without judgment, it creates a sense of peace and clarity.
And the amazing thing is, like, all this ancient wisdom is now being backed up by science, right? Some of the sources mention studies on the benefits of silence.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Neuroscience is finding that regular periods of silence can actually change our brains, change our well-being. Studies have shown that silence can improve cognitive function, reduce stress, even help new brain cells grow.
Wow, incredible. It's not just philosophy, it's real. So silence is key. But then how do we even cultivate inner peace? When the whole world seems obsessed with greed and materialism.
That is the big question, isn't it? It's hard to find peace when everyone's always focused on more. Thankfully, these sources offer some timeless advice on how to navigate that.
I really like what one of those masters said, the one who gave guidance on how to live wisely amidst all that greed. He talked about contentment, finding joy in simple things, letting go of excessive desires, like recognizing that chasing more isn't gonna bring you peace.
Exactly. It's like that constant striving for more just creates anxiety, dissatisfaction. Contentment comes from appreciating what we already have, I think. Finding joy in the little things.
I loved how he talked about compassion as an antidote to greed, like shifting the focus from me to we, creating a cycle of giving and receiving rather than always wanting more.
Absolutely. Compassion, it helps us connect with others, recognize our shared humanity. And mindfulness is a big part of it too, right? By becoming more aware of our desires and motivations, we can make conscious choices instead of being driven by, unconscious greed.
It's all connected, isn't it? Inner peace is not just sitting there. It's something we actively cultivate through mindfulness, compassion, and letting go.
Yeah, you got it. It's a way of life. And it reminds me of, when the Buddha was passing away in Kushinagar, even as he was dying, he remained completely composed. He reminded everyone about impermanence, the importance of diligence.
It's so inspiring. But what really struck me was that he didn't choose a successor. He left behind his teachings as a guide for the community.
Such a powerful act, right? Letting go of attachment to individual authority. It's like he was saying the wisdom itself is what matters, not who's holding it.
And that leads us perfectly into the story of Lai, the ambitious advisor. Talk about ambition backfiring.
Oh, yeah. Lai's story is a bit of a warning about what happens with unchecked ambition. She manipulates her way to power, but eventually her deceit catches up with her, and it leads to her downfall.
It's like a reminder that trying to gain power through unethical means, it doesn't work. But thankfully, it's not just a story of, downfall. It's also about redemption.
You're right. Lai seeks out guidance from Master Shen, and Master Shen teaches her about karma. And it's not about punishment, it's about understanding the consequences of our actions.
And the beauty is that we can always change, right? Lai makes amends, uses her talents to help others, and eventually finds peace by aligning her life with the Dharma.
Exactly. Aligning with the Dharma, those teachings of the Buddha, that emphasis on ethical conduct and pursuing enlightenment, it becomes her guiding principle. It shows that we're not defined by our mistakes, but by our willingness to learn and grow from them.
It makes you think about your own life.
Yeah.
What choices are we making every day? What seeds are we planting with those actions? And speaking of choices, Sarah's story really shows the importance of integrity.
Absolutely. It's like Sarah always chooses honesty from when she's a kid to, being an adult. It's like she's constantly facing these little tests of integrity, these moments where she could take the easy way out, but she chooses honesty.
It's amazing. Her integrity becomes like her superpower.
It really does. It builds trust, it shapes her character, and it ultimately leaves this legacy that inspires other people.
It's a beautiful illustration of how integrity isn't just about the big moments, it's in those everyday choices that we make.
It's about being true to ourselves, even when it's hard. And this brings us to another big theme that keeps coming up, the idea of letting go. We see this in so many of these stories, from the Buddha letting go of attachment to, having a successor, to Aiko's story about releasing her past grievances.
Letting go is essential, isn't it? When we hold on to things, to people, ideas, we just create suffering for ourselves. We get caught in this cycle of wanting, grasping, and disappointment.
It's so true, but when we learn to let go, we create space for peace,
Yeah.
joy, acceptance. And Aiko's story really shows that. Like, she's carrying all this baggage from the past, all these hurts and negative emotions. And then she meets this wise old man who teaches her about letting go.
And she actually starts to feel the difference, right? She feels lighter, freer, more present. It's not about forgetting. It's about releasing the hold that the past has on her.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we can't control everything, but we can control how we respond. Aiko learns to focus on the present moment, on what she can control, and on cultivating gratitude and joy.
It's like a reminder that we have the power to choose how we experience life, don't we? And I keep thinking about that Zen story about the overflowing cup. Such a powerful metaphor, right?
It is. The disciple's all stressed out, overwhelmed by his emotions, and the master pours tea into this cup that's already full. It spills everywhere.
It's like saying we can't control our emotions if our minds are already overflowing. We need to create space to empty that cup before we can pour in something new.
You got it. We can't find peace if we're clinging to all that old stuff. The hurts, the anxieties, the limiting beliefs. Letting go is how we create space for serenity, for clarity.
And the story doesn't just give us an analogy, it actually offers some practical guidance on how to do that,
Yeah.
Mindfulness, self-reflection, embracing impermanence, practicing non-attachment, cultivating compassion. These are the tools that can help us empty that cup.
It's a process, a practice. And it starts with a willingness to let go of what no longer serves us. And in that space, something new can bloom.
Such a beautiful, hopeful message, especially when the world feels so overwhelming at times. It reminds us that we have a choice. We can choose to cultivate that inner peace, and by doing that, we contribute to a more peaceful world.
Absolutely, and you don't have to be a monk to do it. It's about finding balance, finding resilience, being able to engage with life with all its ups and downs, but not getting swept away.
It's about that sweet spot between effort and ease, between striving and acceptance. And it's about cultivating that deep inner peace that allows us to face life's challenges with grace and compassion.
You said it perfectly. It's a journey we can all take, no matter who we are or what we believe. These truths about being human, about suffering, and the path to peace, they resonate with everyone.
And it's not just about our own well-being, right? It's about creating a more peaceful world. When we find inner peace, it radiates outwards. Our interactions change, our actions become more mindful, and the world benefits.
Exactly. It's that ripple effect, remember? The more people who find inner peace, the more peaceful our world becomes.
It's a beautiful thing to imagine, isn't it? And it all starts with us. It starts with those everyday choices, those moments of mindfulness, the acts of kindness. It's about living a life that reflects our deepest values.
That's it. It's not about the big, flashy things. It's about those small, consistent actions, day after day, aligning our lives with what really matters.
It's incredible how these, seemingly simple practices can, have such a big impact on our well-being and even the world around us. And speaking of profound impact, those Four Noble Truths really stood out to me. Like a core framework in Buddhism, a way to understand suffering and the path to liberation.
Yeah. The Four Noble Truths are, they're really essential to Buddhist philosophy, aren't they? That first noble truth, it just acknowledges that, suffering is part of life. It's just there. And it's not just physical pain. It's that emotional stuff too, the distress, dissatisfaction, that feeling that something's missing.
We've all felt that, right?
Right.
At some point, that loss, the disappointments, those desires that don't get fulfilled is just part of being human.
Exactly. And that second noble truth, it gets at the cause of that suffering. It's that craving, that attachment. We cling to things, people, ideas, believing that they'll bring us happiness. But it just creates this cycle of dissatisfaction because everything is impermanent.
Because it all changes, right? Things fade, they disappear, and we're left wanting more.
Exactly. But there's good news. That third noble truth, it states that there's an end to suffering. It's called nirvana. And it's a state where suffering doesn't have that hold on us anymore.
So it's not like some faraway paradise, but a state of liberation that we can reach in this life.
Yeah.
But how do we get there?
That's where the fourth noble truth comes in. It outlines the path to liberation. The Noble Eightfold Path. It's a guide to living mindfully, compassionately, and wisely.
The Eightfold Path. What does that actually look like? What are the steps?
So there's right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And each one kind of builds on the last, guiding us towards that, that state of peace and liberation.
It's interesting how it covers, like, not just our internal world, but also how we interact with the world around us. Can you give us a few examples of what some of these right steps actually involve?
Yeah, of course. So right view, for example, that's about understanding reality, seeing things as they are, understanding the nature of suffering and impermanence. And then there's right intention. That's about cultivating wholesome motivations, making sure our intentions are aligned with wisdom and compassion. Right speech is about speaking truthfully, kindly, and avoiding any harmful speech. And right action, that involves, acting ethically, not doing anything that causes harm.
So it's a holistic approach then, thoughts, words, and actions.
Exactly. It's a path, a continuous journey of learning and growth. And it all comes back to what we've been talking about, cultivating awareness, making conscious choices, letting go of those attachments.
It's like a roadmap for transformation. And speaking of journeys, I was really drawn to the story of Sora, the young guy who goes to see Master Koji for guidance. He's so lost, so full of doubts and fears. But then he spends time in silence at the monastery and something shifts.
Sora's story is, it's a beautiful illustration of what silence can do. Master Koji teaches him that silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of inner stillness.
And it's in that stillness, in that space, that we can connect with our true selves, that inner wisdom.
Yes. Master Koji even shares this parable about a man who finds peace in the eye of a storm, While everyone else is freaking out, trying to find shelter, this guy is just standing calmly in the center. He finds clarity amidst all the chaos.
Such a powerful image. Like, no matter what's happening around you, you can find that still point within yourself.
That's it. And that's what Sora learns. He learns that by cultivating that inner stillness, he can face life's challenges with more grace, more wisdom.
He finds his purpose, not through, external achievements, but by connecting with that inner wisdom.
Exactly. It reminds us that the answers we're looking for, they're often already there, waiting for us to uncover them in the silence of our own hearts.
But what about when we mess up? When we stray from the path, make those mistakes? We're only human, right? We all slip up sometimes.
Of course. We're not perfect. And Lai's story is a good reminder of that, isn't it? She makes choices driven by greed, ambition, and it leads to her downfall.
She loses everything. Her position, her reputation, people's trust. It's a powerful illustration of what can happen when we act out of alignment with our values.
Yeah. But her story's not just about, failing. It's also about redemption. She seeks out Master Shen, and he teaches her about karma.
And he explains that karma isn't about punishment. It's about cause and effect. Our actions create ripples. They affect us and everyone around us.
And the important thing is that we can always change course. We can choose to plant different seeds of kindness, compassion, wisdom.
And Lai takes that opportunity, doesn't she? She makes amends, she dedicates herself to helping others, and she finds peace by aligning her life with the Dharma.
It's really inspiring, isn't it? It shows that we're not defined by our past, but by our willingness to learn and grow.
And it emphasizes how connected we all are, right? Our choices have this ripple effect. They impact not just us, but the whole world around us.
Absolutely. So then the question becomes, how do we navigate that interconnectedness? How do we make sure those ripples we create are positive ones? And Sarah's stories offer some insights there.
Yeah, Sarah's her commitment to honesty from childhood to adulthood is a powerful example of how integrity really shapes our lives. She faces all these little tests, moments where she could easily lie, but she chooses honesty instead.
And each of those choices, they strengthen her character, they build trust, and ultimately, she leaves behind a legacy of integrity that really inspires people.
It shows that integrity is not just about those big dramatic moments. It's about those small, consistent choices that we make every day, the ones that reflect our values.
Exactly. And over time, those choices create a life of meaning. They become the foundation of our relationships, our work, and who we are.
It's about being true to ourselves, even when it's tough. Which brings us to another theme that emerges from all these stories, the idea of letting go. We see this in so many places, from the Buddha letting go of needing a successor, to Aiko's story about letting go of all those those past hurts.
Letting go is so important for inner peace, isn't it? When we cling to things, people, ideas, we just cause ourselves more suffering. It's that cycle of wanting, grasping, and, being disappointed.
But when we learn to let go, it's like we create space for peace, joy, acceptance. And Aiko's story really shows us that. She feels lighter, freer, more present in the moment.
And it's not about pretending the past didn't happen. It's about releasing its grip on us.
It's about understanding that we can't control everything, but we can control our response. Aiko learns to focus on what she can control, on the present moment, and on cultivating gratitude and joy. It's a great reminder that we have a choice in how we experience life. And I love that Zen story about the overflowing cup. It's such a powerful metaphor for this whole process of letting go.
It really is. Remember the disciple, all overwhelmed by his emotions, and the master pours tea into the cup that's already full. It spills over the edge.
It's such a clear way to show that, we can't control our emotions if our minds are already overflowing with all these thoughts and attachments and preconceived notions. We need to create some space. Empty the cup before we can pour in anything new.
That's it. We can't find peace if we're holding on to all that old stuff, the hurts, the anxieties. Letting go is how we create space for serenity and clarity.
And what's great is that it's not just an analogy. It points to those practical ways of creating that space. Mindfulness, self-reflection, embracing impermanence, practicing non-attachment, cultivating compassion. These are the tools that can help us empty the cup, so to speak.
Exactly. It's a journey, a practice. And it starts with that willingness to let go of, what's no longer serving us. And in that empty space, something beautiful can blossom.
It's on a hopeful, empowering message, especially when the world feels so chaotic and so overwhelming. It reminds us that we have a choice. We can choose to cultivate inner peace. And in doing so, we help create a more peaceful world.
Absolutely. And we don't have to, become monks or anything. It's about finding that balance within ourselves, that resilience that lets us engage with life, with all the ups and downs, but without being overwhelmed by it all.
It's about that sweet spot between effort and ease, between striving and accepting, cultivating a deep inner peace that lets us face life's challenges with grace and compassion.
Beautifully said. It's a journey we can all take no matter what our background is or what we believe. These are universal truths about the human experience, about suffering, and about the path to peace. They resonate with everyone.
And this isn't just about feeling good, right? It's about creating a more peaceful world. When we cultivate inner peace, it affects everything. Our interactions become kinder, our actions are more mindful, and we contribute more positively to the world.
Absolutely. It's that ripple effect, remember? The more of us who find that inner peace, the more peaceful our world becomes.
It's a beautiful thing to imagine. And it all starts with us, doesn't it? With those small everyday choices, the mindfulness, the kindness. It's about living in a way that reflects what we truly value.
That's it. It's not about the big flashy things. It's about those small, consistent choices we make day after day, aligning our lives with what really matters.
So as we head into the final part of our deep dive, what's resonating with you the most so far? What's standing out as particularly relevant or insightful?
That's a great question to reflect on. For me, it's that interconnectedness. The idea that our inner peace isn't separate from the peace of the world. By cultivating one, we're contributing to the other.
I love that. And it makes me think about how all these stories and teachings aren't just, abstract concepts. They're tools, practical tools that we can use to navigate our lives and create positive change.
Exactly. They offer us a roadmap, a framework for understanding ourselves, our place in the world, and that potential we all have to cultivate more peace within us and all around us.
It's really amazing to see how these principles and practices can have such a positive impact, not just on our own lives, but on the world around us. As we go into this final part of our deep dive, I'm thinking about what this all means,
For us.
for you listening right now.
That's the key question, isn't it? How do we take these ancient teachings and actually apply them to, our modern lives? It's not about becoming a monk or anything like that. It's about finding ways to integrate these principles into our daily lives.
Right. We don't have to renounce the world or anything to find inner peace. It's about finding that balance within ourselves.
Yeah.
That resilience that helps us engage with life, with all the good and bad, without getting swept away by it.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between effort and ease, striving and accepting, and cultivating that inner peace that allows us to, to face those challenges with grace and compassion.
And what strikes me is that this isn't just about personal well-being, it's about creating a more peaceful world.
Yeah, absolutely. When we cultivate inner peace, it radiates outwards, our interactions are kinder, our actions are more mindful, and we contribute to the world in a more positive way.
It's that ripple effect we keep talking about. The more people who find that inner peace, the more peaceful the world becomes.
It's a beautiful vision, and it starts with each of us, It starts with those small everyday choices, the mindfulness, the kindness, living a life that reflects what we truly value.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. What's one small step you can take today to incorporate some of this into your own life?
Maybe it's 5 minutes of meditation, or maybe it's making a conscious effort to let go of something that's been hurting you, or even just a simple act of kindness towards a stranger.
It doesn't have to be anything huge. It's those small, consistent steps that really make a difference over time.
The path to inner peace is a journey, not a destination, and it's a journey worth taking for ourselves, for our communities, for the world.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into inner peace. We hope it sparks some new insights, maybe some inspiration, and perhaps even a bit more peace in your day. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep cultivating that peace within.